Welcome to episode 3 of the Soundboard with Tofe podcast, which is the podcast about podcasting. As per the last episode, I touched on a bit of insights, a tip into the majority of why people are listening to podcasts. Feel free to listen to that episode as a recap. For this one, I talk something that I've learned on what works and what doesn't work from my journey of podcasting. And what hasn't worked for me is overthinking. Easier said than done from a massive overthinker. Now, if anyone that is listening to this that is potentially wanting to start a podcast, or anyone that has a podcast knows this, that what is the bare minimum that you can get through? And when I say the bare minimum, I'm talking about equipment. To get myself started and to even just start this new podcast series, all I needed was my computer. All I needed was a microphone, which cost me about $100, an internet connection, and recording software. So if I got a Mac, which I do, I could use GarageBand. I'm actually using this over Zoom. Zoom is a free account. So the only thing that I need to pay for, that is if my internet is obviously being paid for anyway, part of my monthly bills, is really the microphone. And hopefully whoever's listening has a computer already. Now, that is the reason why I do that is it allows me to scale later on when I decide to get all the really fancy stuff. If I'm doing this over video, I got to make sure I have decent lighting coming in and not focusing on too much artificial lighting, making sure the audio is good and making sure the quality is good. Keeping that as a bare minimum from a technical standpoint, there's only a few elements involved. And if I keep that the standard, and if I make that the bare minimum, then that's fine. Where I hear a lot of people struggling with starting a podcast, a lot of it does come down to the equipment. It's what sort of supercomputer do I need? What sort of editing premium software do I need? What microphone do I need? These are all really valid questions. I think the most important thing is having a decent mic. And like I said, I'm doing this over Zoom. I'm doing this over Zoom because there is that recording functionality. And if I decide to take this video, which if I'm doing this video, thank you for watching, but it's what I can use today to get me through. I like to think of it as action. That's what's going to always trump that overthinking. And I associate overthinking with fear, that false reality that hasn't even existed. It's a story I tell myself. For anyone that knows me, you'll hear me often say good enough is perfect. That is because I'm trying to strive for excellence as opposed to perfection. Perfection doesn't really exist. So if I focus on getting better each time, for someone that's even been involved in the podcasting world, with this being episode 3 of a new podcast, it's probably going to sound a bit rusty compared to maybe the 100th or 200th episode. I'm sure it will be fine-tuned. So it'll be much more structured and natural. But for what I'm doing today and with the structure of my podcast, keeping them 5 to 10 minutes long and using what I need, it'll do. And it's the small actions that will help me succeed. So really think about that. It doesn't matter if it's just podcasting or anything in life. It comes down to doing those small actions that help us overcome the overthinking, which really stifles us in any sort of growth. Which is why I wanted to put this out there, as overthinking led me astray. Overthinking prevented me from being from where I wanted to be. It became self-sabotage in a way. When I focus on very small actions, they turn into habit. And then the small domino hits the bigger domino, hits the bigger domino. And it makes it easier for me to have momentum, because I'm already in the rhythm of it. Now, if you're at the start of your podcasting journey, what helps, like I'm saying, with overthinking is starting really small. So what's going to make you feel like you've had a win? Does it mean speaking into a mic that isn't even recorded to get you started? Does it mean doing it over Zoom and not showing your face? And then eventually over time, you'll show your face. Whatever it is, focus on the little wins, and that will eventually overcome the overthinking. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and stay tuned for the next episode on Soundboard with Tofe.
Thank you for listening, and remember, your voice matters. Soundboard acknowledges the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, paying respects to elders past, present, and emerging.